inadequate, and in fact I must say that it is only an accident of fate which has put me in the position of the director of the institute at the time of the centenary. I told the alumni yesterday that at times like this it is better that the director is not heard, and it is even better if the director is not seen. Because as Professor Balakrishnan said, that while all these preparations for these conferences go on, large institutions run into crises every day. And it has been my good fortune to have Professor Balakrishnan with me. I told Dr. Kalam a few minutes ago that I will leave the guest house. He said, you should go because your other guests will be waiting. I told him it doesn't matter, Dr. Balakrishnan will be there and he will bring you. And we are like two indistinguishable particles. You can't recognize one from the other. So I think I owe a great debt to my colleagues, beginning with Professor Balakrishnan and all the others in the Institute, for their wonderful abilities to having put this conference together. But in the last 1 year, because this is the 100th year of the Institute, I've had an occasion to read deeply about the history of the Institute and to ask the question, what would the Institute have looked like 100 years ago when the first Englishman, Maurice Travers, came here to set up the Institute? There would have been no buildings. The land would have been absolutely free. There would have been no trees. The early photographs show only scrubland. There might have been a forest where Malleshwaram is today, and the entire environment has been transformed in the century that has followed. When you look at the history of the Institute, you will find that the history of the Institute is not one of continuous development. Like every other history, it's one of ups and downs. You celebrate when you go up, but you learn when you go down. There have been a number of difficulties which many of my predecessors have wrestled with in the years gone by. I have seen many directors, many distinguished predecessors in the chair of the Institute. I saw Professor Dhawan, I saw Professor Ramaseshan, I saw Professor C.N.R. Rao, and Professor C.N.R. Rao will of course tell us a little bit later, because he's had the longest association with the Institute of half a century, of what the Institute was and what it might be. I've seen Professor Padmanabhan, I've seen Professor Mehta, I've seen how much they have worked for the Institute. So on this occasion, what I would really like to do is acknowledge really the work done by all my predecessors in making the Institute what it is today. And I know that in this very large number of you who are sitting in this hall and who have not been able to get into this hall and who are watching this elsewhere have also contributed to the growth of the Institute. I must convey to all of those who have worked for the Institute in the past and who continue to work for it today, my sincerest thanks. In many ways, the director of the Institute is the custodian of the Institute. But if I can be a little more frivolous and follow Professor Balakrishnan, I would say that today I stand before you really as the father of the bride. Thank you very much.